Hey everyone, and welcome to Your Money Life podcast. We're at episode 246 of the podcast. Again, make sure you're listening, you like, subscribe, 5-star rate and review this pod. Also, make sure if you're watching and listening on YouTube, you do the same thing. Looks like the people are also liking the YouTube version, the media way of getting this podcast. Let's jump into it today. We got a lot to talk about, a lot to catch up on. There is a lot going on. First and foremost, let's talk about the market, what's going on with the stock market. We're seeing actually a decent fourth quarter as we might have suspected for the market, right? So last week the market's been up, over 1% in the last 5 days, trading days. Right now, futures this morning are showing positive signs. S&P 500 future of this ETF is showing, half a point up. So we're seeing again strong things. And a lot of it is because earnings are in focus. Banks have started to put out earnings. You've seen economic data that's better than previously. So let's look at some of that in detail here. So the retail sales rose more than expected in September. So that's means people are buying, people are spending. They grew by 0.4% in September, beating the Dow Jones estimate forecast of 0.3% increase. And that excluded auto sales. You also see the European Central Bank. They lowered their key interest rate. So they have their version of the Fed. They lowered their key interest rate by 25 basis points. That's a third time they've done that. So they're really saying that, hey, we're done with inflation over here. Are you guys? They're pretty much saying that they're really on a path to really cut their, rates, and they think that inflation is in much better shape for them over there. And you saw a lot of shares of different companies trading in a more volatile way just because of earnings have come out. You're getting third quarter results for a lot of companies as well. So again, the market doesn't have much to go off of, but it seems to like it. You have geopolitical stuff, you have political stuff, you have a lot. But right now, the focus is on third quarter earnings and economic data, what the Fed is going to do. But so far, the market is responding in kind with, again, past 5 days up over 1%. Past month, it's inching towards 4% gain in the past month. And so that's, again, really a sign that it's been a strong 2024 for the market. It's not even normalized. Again, these are double digit gains year to date. We're year to date on the S&P, we're over 20%. NASDAQ is roughly the same. The Dow is up 12, 13% year to date. That's showing strong gains at the beginning of the year. And so that is, again, if you think about the long run of the S&P 500 of the market, it's roughly like 7 to 8% rather than getting these larger returns, which is, speaking to the strength of the market so far over these last couple of years. Speaking more on inflation, let's go into current news. Pepsi, it's really going through a process where people are kind of complaining about shrinkflation. It's a process where you'll see that their bags and their goods in their bags, their snacks are smaller, but they're still charging the same price. Instead of increasing the price, they'll just make the goods that they provide in each bag smaller and less, as you know. The biggest maker, PepsiCo, the biggest maker of savory snacks in the US, has blinked. It will replenish some bags of the Tostitos and Ruffles. It had downsides in a process known as shrinkflation. So they'd downsize these bags, and now they're going to replenish them and say, all right, we'll give you guys more in these bags. It's good news for consumers as other makers of snack goods that have shrunk quantity amid inflation are likely to follow in the company's footsteps. The moves comes from after some pressure. Snacks sales slipped 0.5% in the third quarter. Pepsi is pointing to a football season as the occasion for its about face, though. So they're saying, hey, because football's around and we got the Super Bowl coming up, Pepsi used to be I think it was Pepsi that used to be one of the big sponsors of the Super Bowl halftime show. They're saying, all right, we're going to replenish these bags, let people have more snacks on their Sundays and Mondays and Thursdays when they watch NFL football. And so that's a big news for them. And it's really like we're talking about these quantities. It sounds small, like for one bag, of course. We're talking about millions and millions of snacks bags. You're talking about a company that does billions in revenue. So all these little moves, the reason why they do it is because these little moves across the board make they translate to a lot of money across the board. So that's why they do these things, of course. So they're going to replenish these bags. Make sure if you're eating snacks, catch it, watch it. Make sure you get all the chips in that bag. Every single one. Speaking more of NFL, the NFL, have you seen, has been moving towards playing international games. They do, I think, 2 or 3 London games a year. They did a Brazil game this year. I think that was the first time they did a game in Brazil. So now they're trying to do a lucrative play but they can package their broadcast rights for international purposes for more than $1 billion for games hosted internationally. The NFL has cemented plans to expand its international presence, playing 5 games overseas this season. It has another 8 planned in 2025, and Commissioner Goodell wants 16 at some point in the future. And their international rights package would cushion the league's loaded coffers since 111 billion in rights deals have been locked down over 11 years. They just did the new rights deal with all those different streamers and broadcasting companies. So what they're essentially saying is you cannot broadcast the NFL legally unless you're one of the rights holders that are allowed to do so. So now, since they're playing games overseas, there's of course specific channels for London, for Brazil, specific broadcast companies, and they can't just broadcast the game; it has to still be broadcast through your CBS or ABC or ESPN. And so now they're trying to give those folks in those local localities broadcasting rights, and they're going to package it for $1 billion. They play a lot of games in London. There's rumors that the Jaguars may move to London because I think the owner might be from there, England, I should say. And the Vikings are playing some games overseas. Hopefully, the Vikings aren't moving over, but they have been playing. So the teams that are playing overseas are a couple of them are ones that are looked at as the might move to Europe. That's something to note is that they're putting together this rights deal and an international rights deal that will be pretty powerful. I think it's really interesting to see that what's going on in the sports world. We are going to talk a little bit more sports because you saw that billionaire Tom Gore. He's going to buy 27% of the LA Chargers for 750 million. 27% of the LA Chargers for 750 million. The deal was struck at an enterprise value of 4 billion. That's more than 30% discount to the team's value of 5.83, according to CNBC's 2024 NFL team valuation. So they got a value of 4 billion for the Chargers. He's buying 27% for 750 million. Detroit Pistons, he owns the Detroit Pistons apparently. And now he wants a piece of the Chargers. So there's a huge lucrative game in owning these sports franchises. And you even saw that Tom Brady now owns 10% of the Raiders. He was approved to own 10% of the Raiders. He through his company, he's going to own 5% of it, and through himself personally, he's going to own another 5%. So a total of 10% of the Raiders. Tom Brady comes in as well. So you're seeing an influx of people coming into, buying these, for changing hands of these sports franchises. What you will see is also, again, we talked about private equity firms coming in into the fray as well. So this is a lot going on for folks that are wondering. There's going to be a lot going on. So quite interesting there. Interesting news there. Let's go back and talk more about Uber. So Uber, this didn't know this, but Uber was planning a takeover bid for Expedia. Uber, obviously know what Uber is. They were looking to expand in the travel industry, and the company was looking at a possible acquisition of the travel booking site Expedia. The Uber CEO Dara served as Expedia's chief executive from 2005 to 2017. He still sits on the board, and the takeover was of Expedia, which generated 12.8 billion in revenue last year, would turbocharge Uber's goal of becoming a super app. So again, Uber wants to become a super app and do everything for people, which again makes sense. You have to scale and move in the right direction. Like the margins and the play just doesn't make sense only doing ride hailing. And of course, they went into food delivery, of course, and now they want to do everything for everyone. And this was potentially one of the plays that they were going to do. And so, yeah, it makes sense. I think I would have liked it. I would like to learn more about the financials of it, but it does make sense in their plan to try to move into being everything for everyone. More news that's not as exciting. Layoff news. Meta employees have been hit with a round of layoffs, according to The Verge. Layoffs appear to have confirmed specific divisions at WhatsApp, Instagram, and Reality Labs. Than the broader companies that were carried out over the previous 2 years. So it seems to be more certain areas rather than the broader company. So again, prayers to those folks and Meta for that layoff news. Let's keep it moving. Let's see what else was really important to talk about. Talked about the shrinkflation already. There wasn't more. Oh, earnings, bank earnings have come out. So bank earnings are coming out. Morgan Stanley, Bank of America, Citi, they are reporting earnings. You saw the investment banking is actually making a comeback. So investment banking arm, the banks do a lot of different things. They just call them investment banks, but they do a lot of different things. They do trading, they do deposits, they do loans, and of course they do investment banking, which is and within investment banking, it's a lot of things. It's deal raising for IPOs, it's advising on mergers and acquisitions. So Morgan Stanley apparently had a surge of M&A activity, and it pushes investment banking revenue up 56%. Of course, this is off of 2023 numbers, which were very low, coming off of 2022 numbers, which are also low. So IPO volumes are still below the 2021 peak, but the lower of interest rates and the year's market rally have pushed more companies to go deal hunting. So companies are starting to do things again now that the environment is a little bit better. Citibank and Bank of America, Wells Fargo beat estimates as consumer spending stays strong. Citi said high earners led splurging for the quarter, while middle and lower income consumers cut back. Bank of America added 360 new consumer checking accounts. All right, interesting. So the banks are pretty much saying things are getting better than the environment that they've seen over the last couple of years, and it led to their earnings being a lot stronger. And so that's kind of interesting to see. So um, we'll keep an eye on that for the future. Let's see what else was there. Is there anything worth noting? Anything worth noting? Boeing is laying off 10% of its workers. I think we talked about that. They might be doing another round. I thought this was interesting. 7-Eleven will close 444 locations as convenience stores aim for better eats. So the hundreds of hot dog rollers will soon cease their internal spinning as 7-Eleven parent Seven and I shutters 44 underperforming stores across North America. They're saying that there's falling sales, plunging cigarette purchases, and inflation. So they're shuttering 444 locations across America. They're just saying they're not performing well and that they're going to make a pivot elsewhere. So that's interesting to know. Like a retail place like 7-Eleven shuttering stores, that's quite interesting. So we'll keep our eye on that. Let's jump into, of course, let's jump into our favorite part of the day, which is the questions of the week, as well as the roundtable. So this week, the roundtable, I want to talk about conviction and what you're doing. It was an interesting tweet that I saw. It's you only get 5 cracks. It's 6 cracks actually at doing something meaningful in your life because it takes usually 5 years to do said meaningful thing. So you think about it, if you're someone that's 30, you're going to work from something from 30 to 35. And then maybe you'll work on some other thing from 35 to 40, from 40 to 45, 45 to 50, 50 to 55, and 55 to 60. And like at 60, you probably won't start any new things with them. That really stuck with me. That really taking a hard crack at things and putting your effort into it for 5 years that will give you enough time to know if it works or not. And also the fact of you having conviction doing these things. You're not going to get a lot of applause or praise from other people. But if you work on something, you believe in it, and your conviction strong, that's all that matters. You will not have the validation from other folks. It has to be within yourself. And that's truly, truly all that matters at the end of the day is your self conviction on what you're working on. So just keep that in mind. If you have any things you're working on, get those 5, 6 cracks at it. Just put everything you have into it because you really never know. With that, question of the day: what are the 3 top most popular Halloween candies? That's going to be Snickers, Kit Kats, Skittles. Those are my favorites. M&M's, Reese's Cups, Sour Patch Kids. All right. Couldn't say no to any of those. Couldn't say no. Halloween's coming around the corner. I'm not a big Halloween guy. If some people's dressing up, I don't have anything. I like to be me. I can't fake it. I can't be anything else. I can't dress up. I try. The wife makes me. Yeah, we'll do it. But I love being me. Question of the day: what percent of Gen Z primarily use an online only bank? I think we've gotten this one before. That's pretty simple. It's going to be 60, 70%. You just think about the Gen Z wave. They're just chronically online. Could not be not online. It's going to be 60 to 7% or more. Whoa, 8% of Gen Z use an online bank as their primary institution. Okay, online only. Got it. Online only versus, you know, a bank that has online capabilities, but is also a brick and mortar. A lot different. Not a lot of people use online only because they do like to see people in person for money. They do like to walk into every once in a while. So not a lot of people use online only. That is a very, very good fact to note, because people just like that touch every once in a while, you know? Folks, this is another fun Your Money, Your Life podcast. Make sure wherever you're listening, you like, subscribe, and review, and we'll see you next week.